All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's look at x squared minus 10x plus 16. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to fill in parts of my box. I know that this is still x squared. I know this is 16. What I've got to do is figure out what two numbers multiply to give me 16, but add together to give me negative 10. Okay, so that's when I think in my head, okay, I've got 16. I know factors of 16 are 1 and 16, 2 and 8. Does 3 go into 16? What about 4? How many times? And then 5 doesn't, 6 doesn't, 7, and then we're back at 8. All right, which ones of these would add together to give me 10? 2 and 8. But what kind of 10 do I have? So both of these have to be negative. Okay, so I know I've got an x here. I've got an x here because that makes x squared. Now I'm going to make sure one of these is negative 2, one of these is 8, negative 8. So then I get negative 8x and negative 2x. That adds together to give me negative 10. Negative 8 times negative 2 gives me 16. Does that box all correct? Yes. Okay, so then I've got my answer, which is x minus 2 times x minus 8. All right, how would I figure out what the zeros are for this? I would set each of them equal to 0. I would set the whole thing equal to 0, and then I would split them up. I'm going to move this up a little bit. I'd have x minus 2 equals 0, x minus 8 equals 0, so x equals 2, and x equals 8. Okay, how would I find my vertex for this? All right, let's look at 2 to 8. We've got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right, what is right in the middle of these? Let's go down. We know right in the middle is 5. Okay, so 5 is the x value for our vertex. All right, let's find the y value. So 5 minus 2 is what? 3. 5 minus a negative, minus 8. So 5 minus 8 gives me negative. So what's 8 minus 5? 3, and 8's the bigger one, so it's negative. And what's 3 times negative 3? Negative 9. So 5, negative 9 is my vertex. I found my two roots. So this should be easy to graph. Right? I'd have 1. I just want to make sure you know how. It might. All right, whatever. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we know our graph goes through 2 and 8. At 5, we go down to negative 9. And it looks like this. We're not going to do a lot of graphing, but I want to make sure you know how to do it. Let's look at one more factor, and then I'll have you guys do some on your own. All right. Let's try to do this one. Hold on. All right. Okay, let's try this one. 2c minus 7c plus 3. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to build our box. Okay. We have our circles. Those are what we really want. All right, I know this is going to be 2c squared right here. I know this is going to be 3. Now the hard part is figuring out what multiplies to give me 3, but adds together to give me -7. Remember, I'm going to have to multiply one of them by 2. If I make this 2c and this c, do I get 2c squared? Yeah. Okay. So let's think about this. What are factors of 3? 1 and 3. Those are the only things that multiply together to get 3. Okay. We're going to have to multiply one of them by 2. And when we add it together, get 7. All right, let's multiply 1 by 2. 1 times 2 is? Does 2 plus 3 give me 7? No, so that can't be it. All right, let's multiply 3 times 2. What's 2 times 3? 6 plus 1, does that give me 7? Okay, so I know that I want the 3 to be multiplied by the 2. So where am I going to put the 3? The top. 2 times 3 gives me 6c. So I'm going to put the 1 right here. So I get 1c. Uh-oh, here's my other question. I want -7. So what are both of those things going to have to be? Negative. All right, let's check. So we get -6, -1. -6 plus -1 is -7. -3 times -1 gives me a +3. So my two roots are c minus 3 and 2c minus 1. Okay, let's figure out what the roots are. We won't have to graph. We're going to get c minus 3 equals 0 and 2c minus 1 equals 0. So we get c equals 3. For this one, I'm going to add 2 to both sides. Add 1 to both sides, excuse me. Divide by 2. So c equals 1/2. Questions about this? How are we feeling? So-so about factoring? Good up to the graphing, okay. All right. I want you to do these 3. All right, so let's look at this one right here. Because you guys were a little confused because it has an X and a Y. So, we know we've got the circles in. All right. We know we've got x squared here. We know we've got 4y squared here. Everybody's okay with that so far? All right. We know here and here will be what? What are the two circles in the top corner? X. Okay, that's easy enough. All right, so we need to find factors of 4y squared. What things make up 4? 2 and 2. And they would just both have to have a y next to it, right? Because 2y times 2y is 4y squared. It would be negative. Why would it be negative? Because the one in the middle, when we add them together, it has to be negative 4xy. So let's try it. Let's see what happens. If we put negative 2y here and negative 2y here, what do we get? Negative 2y times x is negative 4xy. I'm sorry, it's negative 2xy. I don't know where I got the 4 from. Negative 2 times x is negative 2xy. So when we add those together, we get negative 4xy. And negative 2y times negative 2y is a positive 4y squared. So my two answers are x minus 2y times x minus 2y. Can we set this equal to 0 and find out? How many variables does this have in it? 2. So you can't set it equal to 0 and find out what the factors are, what the roots are. But we do have the factors. Okay? So now we're going to work on these last 2. There. So these 2. Okay. So let's do this one, ladies and gentlemen. Let's look at this. we know we've got r squared here. We've got r squared right here, and we have 50s squared down here. All right, so what I know is this has to be r, and this has to be r, because it's the only things that will give me r squared. Okay, what things multiply to give us 50? 1 and 50, 2 and 25, 3 doesn't, 4 doesn't, 5 and 10, 6, 7, 8, 9 doesn't, and then I'm back at 10. Okay, so 5 and 10, do they add together to give us 15? Okay, so I know I've got 5 and 10. What else do I need with those? They both need to have what next to them? S. 10s times r is 10rs. 5s times r is 5rs. So let's wait a second here and make sure we get it. 5rs plus 10rs, does that equal 15rs? Because if they have the same letters, you just add the numbers in front, right? Okay, so we know our final answer is r plus 10s times r plus 5s. Does everybody agree? Yes.
If you have the 5s and 10s,
Reversed, you still are fine.
would it matter if it was
If it has a letter, a number in front, it matters. Otherwise, it does not. Okay. All right, let's try the next one. First thing, everybody should be able to make the box. Is everybody confident that they can make the box? Okay, everybody's confident that they could put 3n squared here and 10 here? We can get that far? So one of these has got to be 3n, and the other one's n, right? Okay, so I know that. Now, let's think. What are multiples of 10 that when I add together I get 17? So I've got 10. I get 1 and 10. I get 2 and 5. There's nothing else. All right, what's tricky about this one is you got to multiply one of these by 3. How do I know that? Because I know this space right here, these two get multiplied by each other to give me here, and I'm multiplying it by 3n. Okay, well, I've got to make 17. All right, if I multiply 3 here, I get 3. 3 plus 10 is 13, so that's the one. Let's try this way. 3 times 10 is 30. 30 plus 1 is 31. That doesn't work. All right, so I know it's not these. All right, 3 times 2 is 6. 6 plus 5 is 11. All right. 3 times 5 is 15 plus 2 is, so we're good. So we know we have 2 and 5, and the 5 has to be multiplied by the 3. So if I want to multiply it by the 3, I put it here? Where do I put it? Okay, so I've got a 5 here, and I've got a 2 here. Oops, that's not what I meant to do. I've got a 5 here and a 2 here. Because 3 times 5 gives me 15, and 2 times n gives me 2n. 2 plus 15 gives me 17. I need a negative. So they both have to be? How do I know both of them have to be negative? Right. It's going to end up as not a negative. But I also know this last plus sign right here. So a negative times a negative is a? Okay, so my last step, let's make sure we write down our factors. We've got 3n minus 2 times n minus 5. What if I want to know what the roots are? What do I set it equal to? 0. So I set each one equal to 0, so I get n minus 5 equals 0, so I get n equals 5. I do it over here. 3n minus 2 equals 0, so I get 3n equals 2. Divide by 3, n equals 2/3. Done.